Awesome, awesome, awesome. I am live. Let me see. I can get a little bit more lighting. Get the camera closer. Waiting for a few people to come in. Ready? You know what? Let me get my charger if I'm going to be on here all night. Let's see. Hey, can you get my charger? My phone charger. Mm-hmm. I am going to charge my phone. I'm going to let people get in, so I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait for about 5 minutes. So for those who are in, welcome. Welcome. Go ahead, put it in the chat. Where are you from? Um, Get a shout out to your city. I am in Florida. It is still hot. Don't close the door all the way. Okay, you put that up. Is that the right one? Okay, put it. Hopefully you guys are in. I don't think I can see the chat from here. Oh, yes, I can. Okay. So if I'm gonna be on here all night, I am gonna make sure that my phone is charged up. All right, thank you. As you can see, it's 9 o'clock, but people still like to be up. So, in all fairness, I got home not too long ago, so that's why everyone is still up. So late evening, late dinner. All right, welcome, 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 Mrs. Danielle DeVita. Welcome to my channel. I am a relationship and femininity coach. My goal is to help both men and women be in relationships that's best for them. If you didn't know, I have a book that's out. Yep. It is a book for men, Command Respect from the Woman You Want. I wish I had a copy of it so I can show it to you. But I do have another book that's out. I've been talking about it forever, but it is coming out. It's in editing and production process now. So that has been a long process to get to this point, and reconstructing my book and getting it out through production and all of that stuff. And that is for women. It's called Girl, Go Get Your Husband. So we'll have that book out. I am not sure if I did start on the book for girls, Boy Bye. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it, if I'm gonna go ahead and go through the editing process on that, or leave it as it is. But Girl, Go Get Your Husband is already in the works. So I know I said I would have it out about 6 months ago, but your girl just got so much going on. But I am working on getting it out. So this is a live Q&A. You have questions, put it in, right? Um, the reason why I said I wanted to do Q&A is if you have questions but you don't have the funds to pay for coaching, or you can't get coaching, because I did cut off new clientele. So if you want coaching but you can't get it because I booked up and I stopped taking on clients, or because you won't be able to afford it for whatever the reason is, this is not in your budget season, that's okay. I have Q&A right here, right now. So if you have a question, you think of something, put it in the chat. I'll briefly answer it. I do have where you can reach out to me via chat with a quick question and I'll provide an answer. Some people say I'm really thorough in my answers and they weren't expecting that. They were looking for, something quick and simple, but I'm a detailed kind of person. So yeah, you'll get that from me. Now, it's not all encompassing if you had a coaching session, because with coaching sessions, we go into the whys, the details, um, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Instead of just attacking or targeting this one particular issue, we go into the why we're having this issue to create boundaries, which is what we're going to talk about today. Boundaries, boundaries. I say that there's two reasons why you have not met Mr. or Mrs. Right. Um, for women, it's their femininity, right? If for men, it's their masculinity. You're not exuding enough of the energy that you need to produce. Um, and and I'll go into the details in a second. And then number two is you're in a relationship longer than you need to be in, and that usually means you have not created boundaries. You have allowed for and tolerated things that should not be tolerated. You have accepted things that should not be accepted throughout the relationship, and the relationship is not growing successfully because of these boundaries you did not create. All right. So let's go back to the number one reason: a woman not exuding femininity, a man not exuding masculinity. I am so big on femininity as far as a mindset and an energy perspective versus how you look, how you dress, your attire. Um, I'm big on mindset, the way you carry yourself. N- I guess you could say your aura, but more so not like your allure and things like that. A lot of people say "Yeah, it's some je ne sais quoi." I'm not speaking about it's just something about you, but I'm saying when you enter the room, people can feel your positive energy. Not necessarily like, oh, I don't know what it is about her. Like they know what it is. It's something about your energy that is positive because of your words and your actions that coincide with that. So there's not like they're confused of what's about you. There's no, uh, uh, you know, wondering what is it about this person? I have to know more. But they can clearly see that you have a positive energy and personality. Now, energy is big, not just for a woman to have her femininity, but for a man to exude masculine energy. I see a lot of men in their feminine, a lot of men who are soft and they like to say they're metro. Sometimes back in the day we called it pretty boys. Nothing wrong with a pretty boy or a metro as long as he is, you know, for what are the, if he is a man who likes women, then you know, it is what it is. But we have a lot of people who like to go both ways. And so sometimes they exude certain things, or it could be your upbringing. You're around a lot of women, so you're taking on feminine energy from what you've seen. You have not seen a lot of masculine energy. And the way you handle things. If a woman says you are sassy, that's not a good thing. You have to be in your masculine, because a man is in his masculine is not going to be doing all this arguing. He's not. So, no matter how macho you sound when you are arguing, it is not a masculine trait. Most men do not like to argue. They do not like to be up in women's face. Um, they're not, they don't have a mouth on them. Like how women, oh, you gotta, when they say, oh, she's spicy, she got a mouth on her, right? This is not typical of a man. So you want to make sure when you're in your masculine, you are also not combative and argumentative. You're not also sassy and things like that. These are traits of a woman, but a woman who needs therapy, because a healthy woman is not going to also be those things, but they are more on the feminine side, but of course for someone who needs therapy. So if you're a woman, don't say, well, I'm supposed to be like this because I'm a woman. No, you need to be in your feminine. And if you are a healthy woman, you're not going to also be arguing. You are going to want to protect your peace as well as your man's peace, right? So a lot of times people think you are in relationships, it is normal to argue. No, it is normal to have disagreements. It is not normal normal to argue. Arguing is when you're having unhealthy styles of communication. Apologies for the dog. He heard someone at the door, so now he's so itching to go to the door, but I'm pretty sure it's someone walking. But take a listen to this. If you are exuding the energy that you are supposed to have, you're less likely to argue. A man wants to protect his peace, he's not arguing. A woman wants to protect her peace, she's not arguing. You're going to come together, have a healthy communication. If the communication is unhealthy, setting boundaries, having deal breakers. Deal breakers are essentially boundaries. If you set boundaries, hey, I don't like this. This is not what I value in a relationship and a partner. When you set those boundaries, the relationship goes on harmoniously. And I'm saying this because a lot of people think that they know how to deal with conflict, but they are like, if you grew up being neglected, you tend to attach yourself too much to someone because you're afraid of letting go, or you tend to withdraw from people if you were in relationship styles where people have withdrawn from you, or maybe if they were too clingy, you withdraw, right? So I think we call these people, I think the clinical term or in that setting would be avoidance. This person has an avoidance type attachment style. They detach from the situation. They may give you silent treatment. They may ghost you and things like that. Whereas one person is more clingy because of the neglect that they had. And then you have others who have healthy lifestyles. They grew up healthy, so they handle conflict in a healthily way, right? Let me make sure I have all these things um, ask it. So make sure put on do not disturb. Okay, so I want to make sure that you are aware of how to have healthy communication attachment styles. And if you have those types of healthy attachment styles, the children that you bear will have those styles. So I love talking about how to properly set boundaries, how to set, um, I talked about Crossroads, which is a set of boundaries, but what happens when you set the boundaries? So the boundary is determining your deal breaker. Do you have a deal breaker? If so, how do you handle it? So you have a deal breaker, you have a boundary. You've crossed a line, you let this person know on you tell them what the boundary is, what the deal breaker is, and then you give them grace. They do it again, you remind them again. And then if they do it again, you will tell them the relationship has come to an end. Now, if you want to give them that chance, you can say, this is the last chance. However, I'm a big fan of you make that comment on the second time so they can know how serious it is. And then when a third time happens, 1, 2, 3, strike, you're out. Now, when you're on the time where you are ready to do that split, you say, hey, the relationship either comes to an end or we fix it and get better. If they say, no, I don't want to fix it, or they keep arguing, basically they're not coming up with a resolution, then the relationship ends. If they do not want the relationship to end, they're going to come up with a resolution. So it's either positive resolutions end, positive resolutions end, right? So yeah. So I think that a lot of times people say that, but when the time comes, they don't fulfill that. They bluff. They make ultimatums. They say things that they don't really mean. You want to be a person that say what you mean. Because if not, people will get accustomed to you saying, huffing and puffing, saying something, and then they see that you don't fulfill it. And they're like, oh. So basically, they're just mad. I'll let them get over that anger, and then we'll move on. They need to know we have issues. So also, if the person says, I do want to fix it, you give them time to think about it. Say, okay, we can fix this, but I need some time to think about all of this. And this is assuming they're asking for more time then you say, I can give you that, but just give me some time and maybe give it, 24 hours before if you want to revisit the conversation, because you don't want to say, okay, and then move on. And then they think, oh, well, they said they were serious and they moved on so quickly. So we're not talking about playing games. If you remember that movie, Two Can Play That Games, we are not talking about playing games. Her situation would have worked easily in that movie if, when she gave him that time, that brief time where she said, well, let me give it some time, and she had a dinner with him and broke it off, then after a day or two got back with him. But she did this whole 10-day thing playing games. That 1 or 2 days where he was like just not feeling good, just he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't think. That was the time for her to get back and say, now we can talk about it. And I'm pretty sure he would have learned his lesson. But people don't want to go through games. Women do a great job of playing games, but I've come to find out men play games too. So, men, if you do not want women to play games, be serious. Don't play games. Don't watch all these social media people who've never been married, never been in a full or serious relationship on how to play games. They've learned how to play the game for women who are ignorant, right? Women who don't know, like, for example, they have this thing about, well, you say something positive and then you break her down. A woman who's not understanding that is ignorant to that. And so most of the time, these are not relationships that they want to be in. They may want a serious relationship, but that woman is not the one for them. That's why they're playing these games. Don't be the ignorant woman. Same thing for men. Some women play games, play all these games. I'm going to make you wait 30 days. I'm going to do this. Mm-mm. When you're serious about people, we do not play games. We're serious 100%. We're not playing these games. We're not going to pretend like we're watching a movie and do what they do, because at the end of the day, it's a movie. At the end of the day, this is social media. You're talking about real life, and we want to talk about real issues and fix it in a real and positive way. Your ending is not going to be the same ending as in these movies. It's not. So if you have a standard, if you say this is a deal breaker, follow through with it. Don't change it because now the person has put it on you. Now because this person has the money and you're reconsidering things. Now because you realize that you're reaching a certain age. Now because they look good, right? And this is men and women. Sometimes we have standards, or we say we have standards, and then we put them aside depending on how good the person made us feel, how fun they were. We only remember the good times and we forgot the tough and rough times. So I am saying, being your feminine, if you're a woman, being your masculine, if you're a man, make sure you're not in a relationship past the time that you should have been in. Meaning, you should have set a boundary, and when the boundary was crossed, you should have met a crossroad a long time ago. Do not stay in a relationship just to be in a relationship, because then that person believes that you don't love yourself enough to be in a healthy relationship, that you're willing to deal with stuff and mess, and not, because you're past giving that person grace. You're past being a patient person. You're now being an ignorant person, a person who tolerates things, and then they can see that about you. You want people to know that I can depend on her to respect her boundaries and respect mine. And so I'm going to do the same to her, right? And if they don't want to do that, they move on to someone else who has also been ignorant to the vetting process, because you want to vet people, not vet their paper, their resume, because I mentioned in another video, people can have a resume that looks so good, but when the probation period is over, when the honeymoon stage is over, when the time that they've already got the position or whatever notch under their belt, the goal, now you get to see the real them. And by that time, they've already got their claws hooked into you, and you do not want to be the prey and they be the predator. No. I want you to have wisdom and discernment, and that requires a vetting process. It requires boundaries. It requires asking questions instead of just going with the flow. It requires you respecting yourself. So you guys let me know what you think. I don't see any comments, but if you have a comment, put one in. I said I was going to do a Q&A. I am going to try to be more consistent at doing Q&As. Even if there is no Q&A, I will pull some from the website that I have, because I actually do get a few people that do use the chat or the email as well. So my email, Mrs. Danielle DeVita at Gmail, um, or info at mrsdanielledevita.com. You can use that. Or you can just go to my website, mrsdanielledevita.com. I have a chat box and it goes to a conversation thing, which I believe I also get those forwarded to my emails in case I can't get on. Please, 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 please do not be upset if I don't get back with you, because sometimes those things get flooded with a lot of questions, a lot of things that come into my emails, telemarketing so much that I don't always get through it and able to answer the questions with the messages, because there's just sometimes so much messages and it's just me, right? It's just me going through the email. So please have grace with me as you have grace in your relationship. Grace, patience, not tolerating mess, because these are two different things. One, you're giving people time to grow. The other one is you're just dealing with something when it's past the time, right? Of growth. That means they don't want to grow. They're just causing pain and you're just handling it. You're growing callous to the pain versus you're dealing with the pain. You've reminded them of it and you're giving them time to make the change based on what you guys discussed. But it requires effort on both part, not just your part, but their part to also want to make the change. Don't just apply this to romantic relationships. Apply this to all relationships that you have. This is applicable in every form of relationship that you have. Setting boundaries, understanding not to be in a relationship past the time that the relationship should have ended. Meaning, if someone has crossed a line with you, you need to set a boundary and you need to be at arm's length if it's someone who's familial, like a family member, or you need to end things that are romantic and just friendships, because then it's obviously not that a friendship if this is the kind of toxicity you're dealing with. And assuming you guys talked about it. I'm not big on just cutting people off. Conversations are needed. Again, there's certain points where you know that there's no conversation needed. I mean, if you got smacked around in the face, nothing else needs to be said. Since they're full of action, you can be full of action, right? And in the relationship, gracefully, of course. So no, 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 we're not going to do all of the punching, throwing bows, fisticuffs, whatever you want to call it. We're not doing that, right? Because we're graceful. Same thing for men. You're not going to be doing all of that. You're going to end the relationship and you don't need to argue. You say what you have to say and you move on gracefully, right? Men can be graceful when they move on. And what that looks like is you say what you say and you end the conversation. We don't get sassy. We don't talk back. We don't keep doing the back and forth, because that doesn't look good on grown-ups. It doesn't look good on kids either, but it doesn't look good on grown-ups because we're grown and we've learned how to have healthy communication styles. So why are we arguing? Right? So let me know what you think. Um, you guys are quiet tonight. You guys are really quiet. I was going to let's see. It's not even it's only 9. It's 9:20. Yeah, almost 9:30. So I was gonna stay on a little bit longer. But you guys are really quiet tonight. Um, Thank you for coming on earlier. So I did have it was really hot. I had a quick Q&A for about 15 minutes around 2 o'clock. So I'm here now. I will, let's see, today's Tuesday. I'll try to do these once a week. I try, it'll be, now I'll still try to do a recorded video. So maybe if I do a live stream once a week, I can do a recorded once a week. But this is a lot, that's a lot for me because my schedule is so full. The way I used to be able to sit down and come right here, it's been a long time since I've done this, just sit down in my space. But I am going to get back there. I'm going to get back there where I can just be able to sit in my space and do videos. But life, life in so many things. It pulls me away from it. Now, at one point, I got pulled away. God was like, I need to talk to you about some things. We need to discuss some things, and then you can get back on, because at this point, it was a distraction for that. However, I am back. I do want to help you be the best version of yourself. Now, don't think that you are above reproach, because no one is all there yet. Even I'm not all there. We all have to learn and grow, because as as emotionally intelligent as I am, there are times where I have to just breathe. There are times where I get out of pocket, beside myself, right? Because there are always situations that test us and test our growth and test our journey. And the question is, how far have you grown? And the only measurement of growth is trials. We can say all day long that we are great and we do great at communicating and great in relationships when things are all peachy and cream. But when things get tough, when you have trials, how are you? Those are true testament and measurement and barometer of where you are in your growth. A lot of times people think that they have it all together, and that that their femininity journey comes to an end at a certain point, but it never comes to an end. Because let's say I'm starting on my feminine journey as a girl, I am changing. My ideas, my thoughts, my looks, my body is changing as I have children, as I get married, as I get older. Things change. Your hormones change. Your sometimes your communication style may change based on your the books you read, the growth that you've had. You may change things a little bit. Your mindset changes. And so, with that being said, you're always on a journey. As long as you're living a race, right? You're going through a race, a life journey. And so, if you are going through a life journey, how can your femininity journey end? How can you become so learned that you don't need to know anything else, if you still have more years to live? Because obviously, someone has lived longer than you. So, unless you're the oldest person in the world, you still have a lot to learn from others, yourself. And so, I encourage you to not think that you have arrived at any point in time, but there's always room for growth, room for humility, so you can learn, because that pride will prevent you from learning all that you need to learn. That is all I have to say. I don't want to say too much if there's not anything else needed to say. So I just want to do a recap of what we learned here. We learned how to exude feminine energy if you're a woman, how to exude masculine energy if you're a man. So we protect our peace. We are not argumentative. We set boundaries. We do not tolerate disrespect or tolerate the deal breakers and boundaries being crossed over. And once we set those boundaries, we hold the person's feet to the fire and remind them when they are crossing a boundary. And then we go in and tell them there's a crossroad, whether we work it out for the positive and it needs to make a change, needs to be made immediately, or we end the relationship. And then after we decide to end the relationship, we do it gracefully. And then after we do it gracefully, we collect ourselves, work on ourselves, and then move into the next relationship. And the only way you can do this in easily easily in a romantic relationship is if you apply this in other forms of relationships, family members, coworkers, people you don't know. And then it'll be easier with friends, children, loved ones, romantic partners, because those who you love, it's harder to set boundaries, especially when they know your buttons and your trigger points versus someone you do not know. So this is something you can practice. So if you are really great in relationships, romantic relationships, you set boundaries really good with coworkers. And so all the people around you, you set good boundaries. Try it with your children, because it is harder with children to set those same boundaries. Then after you've tried it with them, set boundaries for yourself, that is called a form of discipline, self-control. When you want to say something or pop off at the mouth, when you have self-control, that is a boundary. You're not crossing the line to step out of your frame to get out of character, but you are remaining who a person of good character, who you were called to be, and you're staying in your feminine as a woman, you're staying in your masculine as a man, and you are properly setting boundaries even for yourself, which is a form of self-discipline and self-control. Then you can move that to not just the things that you say and do, but the food that you put in your mouth. You can set boundaries there. You can say, I'm not going to eat more than I need to. You're also then going to say, I'm going to set boundaries with my mindset. I'm not going to use the word can't, defeat, that I won't be able to do it. You're not. And then, so when you start to cross that over in other forms of your life, now you are a person who has good relationships with all people, not just romantic ones. You're one who set boundaries in the food that you eat and how you carry yourself in life. You're setting boundaries in your work life, in your business. So you're setting all types of boundaries in all aspects of your life, and you are what we call a well-rounded person. You are the best version of yourself. But in order to continue to be your best version of yourself, trials will come in to test to see if you have, increased your application of this journey that we're on, because it gets harder, it gets tough. So there's different levels to this, because situations are different. It could be an easy situation and how you handle it, or it could be a very tough situation where it required a lot of discipline just to make sure that you stayed in the energy that you were supposed to stay in. So thank you so much for tuning in to Mrs. Danielle DeVita. Take care.